Captain Eli Marsden stepped off the shuttle, his boots thudding against the metallic surface of the Zoltran 9 landing pad. The air was tinged with a crisp, electric scent, foreign yet not unpleasant, hints of ozone and something sweet he couldn't place. Around him, the architecture spiraled skyward, structures both organic and metallic intertwined, reflecting the planet's unique blend of technology and nature. Captain Marsden? A voice cut through the hum of alien chatter. A tall figure approached, his skin shimmering with a subtle iridescence characteristic of the Zoltronians. I'm Kale, your liaison officer. Eli extended a hand, noting Kale's hesitation before their palms met. Pleasure to meet you. Looks like we're going to be working closely. Kale nodded, a gesture Eli was beginning to recognize as a universal sign of assent. Indeed. If you'll follow me, I'll show you to the barracks. You can meet the rest of your training cohort there. As they walked, Eli surveyed his surroundings. Groups of Zoltronians moved with purpose, their movements fluid and assured. He spotted other humans too, a comforting reminder of the interspecies collaboration that had brought him here. The training program is rigorous, Kale explained, leading him into a building that spiraled upwards like a shell. You've been selected not just for your military prowess, but for your ability to adapt and innovate. Here, it's not about strength, it's about strategy and understanding. Eli nodded, absorbing every detail. I'm ready. I want to learn, to bring back something valuable. They entered a room buzzing with activity. A few humans mingled with several alien species, each distinct in features and demeanor. Everyone, this is Captain Eli Marsden, joining us from Earth, Kale announced. A human taller than Eli, with a broad grin, came forward first. Lieutenant Mark Jensen, he introduced himself, clapping Eli on the back. Heard a lot about you, Marsden. Glad to have another Terran on the team. Eli smiled, grateful for the warm welcome. Just Eli's fine. I'm here to learn like everyone else. Mark nodded. You'll find plenty of opportunities for that. Let's introduce you to some of the others. He guided Eli around, stopping first at a pair of beings with sleek silver skin and eyes like black diamonds. This is Kiri and Thal, Mark said. They're from Sirius B, tactical geniuses. You'll like working with them. Kiri, with a voice like wind chimes, spoke first. We are pleased to meet you, Eli. We find human strategies fascinating. There is much we can exchange. Thal nodded in agreement, their eyes twinkling with curiosity. The group moved on, each introduction adding layers to Eli's understanding of this diverse military tapestry. The final introduction was to a robust figure with a commanding presence, clearly another human. Captain John Harper, he said, offering a firm handshake. I specialize in defensive strategies. Looking forward to seeing how you handle the challenges here. Eli matched his grip, encouraged by the camaraderie. I'm all about overcoming challenges. As the introductions wound down, Kale took the floor again. Training starts at 0600 hours tomorrow. I suggest you all get a good night's rest. It's going to be a demanding first day. Eli felt a surge of anticipation. The conversations he'd had were promising, and the potential for growth was immense. As the group dispersed, Eli and Mark lingered, chatting about the expectations and excitement for what was to come. Stick with me, Eli, Mark said with a wink. We'll make a great team. Let's show them what Earthlings can do. Eli chuckled, his gaze fixed on the stars visible through the transparent ceiling. That's the plan. Let's make it count. The morning on Zoltran 9 broke with a vibrant hue, painting the sky in colors that reminded Eli of the auroras back on Earth. He and Mark joined the gathering throng of trainees outside the central training complex, where Kale and a team of instructors awaited. Today, you will face your first set of challenges, Kale announced, his voice carrying over the crowd. These are designed to test not only your physical prowess, but also your strategic thinking. John Harper nudged Eli, his expression serious but supportive. Ready to dive in? Let's see what we've got, Eli replied, squaring his shoulders. Mark grinned, stretching his arms. Just follow my lead, guys. We'll ace this. The group was herded towards what looked like a vast obstacle course, featuring everything from high walls and deep pits to complex laser grids. The alien landscape added an extra layer of complexity, with gravity slightly different from Earth's and the atmosphere denser. Your first task, Kale continued as they reached the starting line, is to complete the course in teams. You'll need to rely on each other's strengths to proceed efficiently. Eli, Mark, and John formed one team, quickly strategizing their approach to the course. John, you take the lead on the walls. Mark suggested, pointing at the towering barriers. Eli, I think you can handle the tech obstacles. Count on it, Eli said, eyeing the laser grids that seemed to dance in an unpredictable pattern. And I'll take the speed challenges, Mark finished. Let's keep communication lines open and help each other out. With a blast from a horn, the challenge began. John sprinted ahead, using his height and strength to scale the first wall. He then reached down to pull his teammates up. Nice job, Eli complimented as he climbed over, then dashed towards the laser grid. He paused, studying the sequence. It's about timing, he murmured, then demonstrated by nimbly dodging through without a single misstep. Mark followed, his movements swift, while John took a bit longer, grunting as he narrowly avoided a beam. Close one, he gasped, laughing. The team moved through the course, each member showcasing their expertise. Mark's speed was invaluable in cross-field dashes, while Eli's quick thinking solved several tactical puzzles that allowed them to bypass longer routes. As they neared the end, they faced a massive chasm. A single, narrow beam served as a bridge. Okay, this is all about balance, Mark said, eyeing the beam warily. I've got this, Eli volunteered, stepping onto the beam with careful precision. Halfway across, he felt the beam wobble. Taking a deep breath, he steadied himself and reached the other side. Come on, Eli encouraged, extending a hand as Mark started across, with John right behind him. Once the trio completed the course, they gathered, panting and sweating, but exhilarated. Not bad for our first run, John said, clapping both Eli and Mark on the back. Good teamwork, Cale approached, nodding in approval. You've shown promising synergy. Keep this up. The men exchanged smiles, their camaraderie deepening through the shared effort. What's next, coach? Mark asked, still catching his breath. Rest up, Cale replied with a mysterious smile. You'll need it. Tomorrow's challenges will demand even more from you. As they walked back to their quarters, discussing each stage of the course, the bond between Eli, Mark, and John solidified. They were not just teammates but were quickly becoming friends, united by a common goal to excel in the alien-led training program. Each felt a stirring of excitement for what lay ahead, knowing that together, they could face whatever challenges Zoltran 9 had in store. As dusk settled over the sprawling training compound of Zoltran 9, a different kind of activity began to take shape. Tonight was Cultural Exchange Night, an event designed to deepen understanding and foster bonds between the diverse species participating in the training program. Eli, Mark, and John walked together toward the communal hall, a structure that seemed to pulse with light and sound, its walls vibrating with the energy of dozens of civilizations mingling. Looking forward to this, Eli asked, adjusting his uniform slightly. Mark chuckled. As long as there's food I can actually eat without consulting a biochemist, I'm all for it. John laughed. Just stick with what I pick. I've been around, I know the safe bets. Inside, the hall was a vibrant tapestry of colors and sounds. Stations from different worlds offered glimpses into alien cultures, with artifacts, visual displays, and samples of cuisine. Let's try to cover as much ground as possible, John suggested. I'm curious about the Arcturian musical instruments over there. They started at an Arcturian setup, where delicate stringed instruments emitted ethereal tunes. An Arcturian, resplendent in shimmering robes, nodded at their interest. We'd like to try, he offered, handing a small harp-like instrument to Mark. Mark plucked a few tentative notes, causing a few heads to turn. Not exactly a musician, huh? Eli teased. Give it here, John said, taking the instrument. Surprisingly, his large fingers coaxed a melody that drew approving murmurs from a crowd. Spent some time on Arcturus base last year, he explained with a grin. Their group moved on, each station offering new wonders. They sampled Tellurian spice cakes, which made Eli cough even as he reached for a second. They watched a holographic dance performed by the ethereal Phoetonians. They even tried their hands at a virtual reality game from the Cygnian Armada that tested their reflexes and had them laughing at their own clumsiness. As they approached a quieter corner, they encountered a Zoltronian art exhibit. Cale was there, speaking animatedly with a small group about the symbolism in their vibrant, swirling paintings. Captain Marsden, glad you could join us, Cale said as they approached. Art is a window into the soul of our culture. What you see here tells the story of Zoltran's history, its challenges, its triumphs. Eli nodded, genuinely interested. It's beautiful. The colors are unlike anything we have on Earth. They spent a moment in contemplation, each painting offering a narrative without words, showcasing battles fought not with weapons but with will, landscapes not merely to be traversed but understood. Mark leaned over to whisper, "Makes you think about what we paint with our actions, doesn't it?" "Indeed, it does," Eli agreed, feeling a newfound respect for their hosts. As the evening wound down, they found themselves sitting with a group that included several Syrians and a couple of humans from other units. The conversation flowed from training tales to discussions about potential strategies in theoretical combat situations. "Think we could ever get to a point where these kind of gatherings are the norm?" Eli mused aloud, the earlier display of art and culture having sparked thought. "It's possible," one of the Syrians, Kiri, responded. "Events like tonight bridge gaps. They show us not just how different we are, but how those differences create a tapestry stronger than any one thread alone." "Here's to more threads, then," John toasted, lifting his drink. The group clinked glasses, the sound crisp and hopeful. As they departed, the air seemed lighter, a path ahead, not just a route to be walked in training, but a journey to be shared. Eli, Mark, and John left the hall with a sense of camaraderie, not just with each other, but with their fellow trainees from across the stars, each step forward a stroke in the grand painting of their shared experiences. The next morning, the training compound buzzed with anticipation. Today, Eli and his team were scheduled for one of the most challenging aspects of the Zoltran 9 program, the Advanced Combat Simulation Chamber, designed to mimic real-world scenarios with a level of detail that could fool even the sharpest senses. Eli, Mark, and John gathered in the briefing room, where Kale was setting up the day's exercise. The room was filled with monitors displaying various terrains and tactical situations. "Today's simulation will require more than physical strength or speed," Kale began, his eyes sweeping across the room to gauge their reactions. "You'll need to rely heavily on strategy and teamwork. The scenario is a rescue operation. You must extract a VIP from a heavily fortified enemy base without being detected." Mark leaned forward, intrigued. "Stealth over strength, got it. What's the terrain?" Kale tapped a few buttons, and the screen flickered to show a dense urban environment with tight alleyways and high buildings. "Urban, with multiple entry and exit points. You'll need to plan your approach carefully." John rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "We'll need diversions, maybe some tech for surveillance." Eli nodded. "Let's keep communications tight. If we can hack their systems, we might be able to create a blackout period to move in." As they suited up, the atmosphere was tense but focused. Each member double-checked their gear, running through the plan one last time before stepping into the simulation chamber. Inside, the realism was staggering. The cityscape loomed around them, complete with the sounds of distant traffic and the occasional shout. The air even carried a faint smoggy scent, adding to the authenticity. "All right," Eli whispered. "John, take the north corridor. Mark, you're with me. We'll circle around to the east side." As they split up, Eli and Mark navigated through the narrow back streets, avoiding simulated patrols. John, meanwhile, set up small, non-lethal devices that emitted sounds and flashes, drawing guards away from Eli and Mark's path. Device in place, John's voice crackled through their comms. "You should have a clear path for the next 3 minutes." "Copy that," Eli responded. He and Mark pressed forward, reaching the compound where the VIP was supposed to be held. Using a compact hacking device, Eli disabled the cameras temporarily, allowing them access to the building. Inside, they moved with precision, reaching the room where the VIP was held. The figure inside turned as they breached the door, a look of relief washing over his simulated features. "Let's move," Mark said, helping the VIP up. They retraced their steps, Eli keeping an eye on the timer of the camera blackout. Just as they exited the building, the screens flickered momentarily, the simulation's way of indicating their window was closing. "We're almost clear," Eli panted, the weight of the moment settling on his shoulders as they neared the extraction point. Just then, a patrol turned the corner, and Mark quickly pulled the VIP and Eli into a recessed doorway. John's voice came through again, calm and steady. "Hold position. I'm rerouting another distraction to your location." Seconds later, another flashbang went off, pulling the patrol away from them. The trio sprinted to the extraction point, just as the simulation ended and the lights in the chamber brightened. "Simulation complete," Kale's voice announced as they removed their gear. "Well done. You utilized your resources effectively and kept casualties to 0. As they debriefed, discussing each move and decision, the sense of accomplishment was palpable. They had not only completed the mission but had done so with a synergy that spoke to their growing teamwork and strategic thinking. "Good work today," Eli said, clapping Mark and John on the back. "Let's keep this momentum going." The men left the simulation chamber, their conversation lively as they dissected each part of the exercise, eager to apply these lessons to the next challenge. The bonds formed here, under the pressure of simulated combat, were becoming the cornerstone of their strength as a unit. After the intensity of the previous day's simulation, the training schedule allotted a day for recovery and reflection. The serene landscape surrounding the Zoltran 9 facility provided a perfect backdrop for relaxation and deeper interpersonal connections among the trainees. Eli, Mark, and John decided to spend the day exploring one of the nearby nature reserves, a vast expanse of alien flora and crystalline water bodies that mirrored the strange yet captivating sky of Zoltran 9. Ever think you'd be hiking on an alien planet? John asked as they trekked along a winding path bordered by luminous plants. Mark laughed, scanning the horizon with his camera. I was hoping for it, honestly. Beats the usual gym session back on Earth. Eli nodded, his thoughts wandering. It's peaceful. Makes you appreciate the quiet moments amid all the chaos of training. As they reached a clearing, the view opened up to reveal a sprawling lake, its surface shimmering with iridescent colors. They decided to rest, sitting on the edge of the water. So, Eli, how are you finding the program so far? John inquired, pulling a small snack from his pack. It's more than I expected, tough but rewarding. And working with you guys, learning from each other, it's been a highlight. Eli replied, his gaze reflecting the calm waters. Mark chimed in, we've all got different strengths. Makes me wonder what other surprises we'll run into before the program's over. Yeah, John agreed, tossing a small stone into the lake, watching the ripples expand. We've been pushed in every way possible. Makes you think about what we're capable of. The conversation drifted to more personal topics. Mark shared stories of his family back home, his reasons for joining the military, and his aspirations. John talked about his previous missions, the places he'd seen, and his hopes for the future. Eli listened, then shared his own motivations and dreams. I joined to make a difference, in whatever small way I can. This program, these challenges, they're shaping how I see things. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the land, Mark suggested, how about a swim? Looks inviting enough. Without hesitation, they stripped down to their underclothes and waded into the cool, refreshing water of the alien lake. The swim turned into a playful competition of who could dive the deepest, bringing peals of laughter and shouts that echoed off the distant hills. Afterwards, drying off in the fading light, John said, "This is good, isn't it? Being able to just unwind and be ourselves for a bit." "It is," Eli agreed, pulling on his shirt. "It's these moments that recharge you, give you clarity." As they made their way back to the compound under a sky now dotted with the first stars of the evening, their conversation turned back to the training program. "We should keep this teamwork going," Mark suggested. "Think of how much more we can achieve back on the course." "Agreed," John said. "Let's plan our strategies around what each of us does best. Play to our strengths." Eli nodded, feeling a sense of camaraderie and purpose solidifying among them. "Let's do it. We're stronger together than we are apart." The day of bonding had not only allowed them to unwind, but had also strengthened their resolve and unity as a team. As they approached the lights of the compound, each man felt more connected to the others, ready to face whatever the next day of training would bring. The dawn at Zoltran 9 heralded what was rumored to be the toughest day of the program, the Gauntlet. As the name suggested, it was a series of back-to-back challenges designed to push the trainees to their limits and beyond. Eli, Mark, and John gathered in the briefing room where Kale stood before a detailed holographic display of today's course. The room was filled with a tense energy, each trainee mentally preparing for the ordeal ahead. "Today's gauntlet will test every skill you've honed thus far," Kale began, his voice stern yet encouraging. "You will face physical obstacles, tactical puzzles, and combat simulations all under time pressure." Mark leaned over to whisper to Eli and John, "Ready to show them what we're made of?" "Born ready," John replied, cracking his knuckles. Eli nodded, his focus sharp. "Let's do this." The first challenge was a physical obstacle course, but unlike any they had faced before. It included scaling vertical walls that shifted as they climbed, crawling through narrow tunnels filled with harmless but disorienting gases, and swinging over pits that simulated lava flows. "John, you take lead on the climb," Eli instructed as they approached the wall. "Got it?" John grunted, attacking the wall with a vigor that had him up and over in record time. He then reached down to assist his teammates. Mark took charge in the tunnels, his compact frame advantageous. "Stay close, keep your hands in front of you, and move fast," he advised, setting a brisk pace that Eli and John matched. Emerging from the tunnels, they faced the swinging ropes. Eli calculated their timing and shouted, now ensuring they all swung across safely. The next segment involved tactical puzzles. They entered a room where they had to arrange physical tokens on a large grid to form a specific pattern. The catch? The pattern only appeared briefly every 30 seconds. Eli, you've got the best eye for this, Mark said, stepping aside. Eli directed them, and together they managed to complete the puzzle just as the timer buzzed. The final challenge was a combat simulation. They were equipped with non-lethal laser weapons and placed in a mock urban environment where they had to neutralize enemy targets without casualties among civilians. Split up but keep in contact, Eli decided. John, high ground. Mark, you're with me on the street level. The simulation was chaos, with targets appearing randomly and civilians running across the field. Communication was key. Target on your 6, Eli. John's voice came over the comms, and Eli spun to take the shot just in time. Mark was a blur of motion on the ground, dodging and weaving, his shots precise and effective. Clear on the east side, he reported. Together, they cleared the area, meeting up at the designated extraction point with seconds to spare. As they exited the simulation, breathing heavily but exhilarated, Kale was waiting with a slow clap. Impressive performance, gentlemen. You've not only completed the gauntlet, but did so with one of the fastest times on record. The trio exchanged proud glances, their camaraderie and teamwork having carried them through one of the toughest days yet. Drinks on me tonight, John declared, clapping Eli and Mark on the shoulders. Make it a double, Mark joked, wiping sweat from his brow. As they left the training field, the day's trials behind them, their conversation turned to the future, both immediate and long-term. They discussed how they could apply what they'd learned in real-world scenarios, their voices filled with confidence and a sense of achievement. Today had proven their mettle, and as they headed back to their quarters, they knew they were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The bonds forged in the fires of the gauntlet would serve them well, no matter where they found themselves next. After the physical and mental demands of the gauntlet, the training regimen at Zoltran 9 shifted focus towards more strategic applications. Eli, Mark, and John gathered in the tactical planning room, their latest scores and feedback from Kale in hand, ready to tackle the next phase. All right, team, Eli started, spreading out a digital map on the table before them. Based on our performances, I think we can pioneer some new strategies for non-lethal conflict resolution. Thoughts? Mark leaned in, pointing at various zones on the map. We could integrate more diversion tactics, smoke, noise, lights. Make the enemy think we're one place when we're actually another. John nodded, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. And combine that with some tech tricks, like hacking their comms or surveillance systems. Keep them in the dark while we maneuver. Eli smiled, pleased with their enthusiasm and ideas. Exactly. Let's draft a scenario to test these strategies. Kale said we could use the sim chamber for a trial run tomorrow. The trio spent hours plotting out every detail of their strategy, considering every possible contingency. They devised a scenario involving a hostage rescue in a densely populated urban environment, emphasizing stealth and misdirection over direct engagement. Let's make sure we're not just effective but also efficient, John suggested. Minimize our movements, conserve resources, and leave minimal trace. As they finalized their plans, Kale entered the room, his expression one of mild curiosity. I see we're hard at work here. How's the strategy coming along? We think we've got something that could change the playbook for missions involving civilians, Eli explained, showcasing their plan on the screen. Kale reviewed the details, nodding in approval. Impressive. This approach could indeed set a new standard. Let's put it to the test. The next day, the simulation chamber was prepped according to their specifications. The urban setup was complex, with holographic civilians and enemy combatants creating a realistic and chaotic backdrop. Remember, stick to the plan. Diversion first, infiltration, then extraction. Eli reminded his team as they geared up. The simulation began, and their strategy unfolded seamlessly. Mark initiated the diversion, deploying smoke bombs and triggering false alarms on the opposite side of the target area. Meanwhile, John hacked into the enemy's surveillance system, feeding them looped video feeds. Eli led the infiltration, guiding the team through less guarded routes that their distractions had opened. They reached the hostage without alerting any enemies, using non-lethal means to neutralize guards as they extracted the hostage. As they regrouped at the extraction point, the simulation ended and applause broke out around them. The observers, a mix of Zoltronians and other species, were impressed by the innovative approach and its flawless execution. Kale stepped forward, clapping Eli on the shoulder. "Well done, Captain Marsden and team. You've demonstrated a viable strategy that prioritizes safety and stealth. You've certainly set a high bar." Back in the debriefing room, the team was elated. "We did it, guys. We really pulled it off," Mark said, a wide grin spreading across his face. "Yeah, we did," John agreed. "Shows what we can do when we put our heads together. Think this could be the future of how operations are handled. It's a step in the right direction," Eli concluded, proud of their accomplishment. "It's about more than just completing missions. It's about changing how they're done." Their strategy session had not only proven successful, but it also demonstrated a shift towards more thoughtful and humane conflict resolution, setting a precedent that might one day influence interstellar military protocols. The day of the final demonstration arrived with much anticipation at the Zoltran 9 training facility. Eli, Mark, and John, now seen as pioneers of a revolutionary non-lethal strategy, prepared to showcase their tactics in a grand arena, where delegates from various planets were present to observe. The atmosphere was charged as they suited up in the prep room, the way of the moment not lost on any of them. "Ready to make history?" Mark asked, adjusting his gear and checking his comms. Eli nodded, his focus clear. "Let's show them what we've accomplished." John clapped them both on the back. "Let's make it count." They walked out into the arena, a massive circular chamber with tiers of seats filled with an audience from across the galaxy. The setup was a simulated urban environment, complete with dynamic holographic civilians and opposing forces. Kale introduced them, his voice booming over the loudspeakers. "Today you will witness a new approach to conflict engagement, pioneered by our trainees from Earth. This demonstration will show the effectiveness of their non-lethal strategies in real time." As the simulation began, Eli took the lead. "Mark, initiate the diversion sequence." "John, you're on tech." Mark moved swiftly, deploying smoke and flash devices to create confusion among the simulated enemy ranks. Simultaneously, John hacked the enemy's communication lines, injecting chaos into their ranks by broadcasting misleading orders. With the enemy distracted, Eli led the team through the designated route, their movements swift and coordinated. They reached the objective, a simulated hostage held at a critical junction, without firing a single shot. Using a combination of smoke screens and precise, non-lethal takedowns, they secured the hostage. As they moved back towards the extraction point, the audience could follow their progress on overhead screens, the efficiency of their operation evident. Reaching the extraction point, Eli signaled the completion of the mission. The arena erupted in applause, the spectators impressed by the demonstration of such a meticulous and humane approach. As the team regrouped, Kale approached them, a broad smile on his face. "Congratulations, gentlemen. You've not only succeeded but excelled." The phrase, "the day Deathworlders surpassed all in alien combat training," will echo in the halls of this facility for a long time. The trio exchanged proud looks, their hard work and dedication having paid off in full view of an interstellar audience. Later, at the debriefing, discussions buzzed about potential implementations of their strategies in various military and peacekeeping operations across the galaxy. "Your approach could redefine engagement protocols," one of the alien delegates commented. "It's non-invasive, efficient, and humane. Truly groundbreaking." As the event concluded, Eli, Mark, and John stood together, watching the sunset over Zoltran 9's unique skyline. They reflected on their journey, from the initial skepticism they faced to the acclaim they now enjoyed. "We did more than complete a training program," Eli mused. "We've potentially changed how conflicts are approached. That's something to be proud of." "Yeah," John agreed, "and we did it together. Makes it all the more rewarding." Mark nodded, looking out at the horizon. "So, what's next for us? Whatever it is, we'll face it like we did here, as a team," Eli said, the bonds of friendship and respect between them stronger than ever. As they left the arena, their conversation turned to the future, eager to apply their new knowledge and experience wherever it was needed most. Today had been a victory not just for them, but potentially for peacekeeping efforts galaxy-wide, a true culmination of their hard work and innovative thinking.